My name is Michael Mariani. I live in Ventura, California. I got interested in typewriters after reading the new book by Tom Hanks, Uncommon Type. It's a collection of short stories, all of which have a typewriter somewhere in the story. After reading Tom's book, I watched an old news story of Tom Hanks and his typewriter collection. He has over 200 typewriters. I also reached out to some friends who happen to be writers, and I asked them if one of them had an old typewriter lying around that I might be able to borrow because I wanted to try it out. But unfortunately, they didn't. So I went out on my own and tried to find one. I saw some on eBay, but I didn't do much about it. And then after a while, one of my friends asked me how my typewriter hunt was going. I remember it was a Sunday morning when I read his message, and I really hadn't done much about searching up until that point. So I just went on to Craigslist, and there it is. I saw this old black typewriter for 60 bucks. So I called the lady up, and she said, yeah, it was still available. And so I was at her house 30 minutes later with my $60 buying her typewriter. She said it belonged to her father-in-law. He had passed away several years earlier, and it was a Corona Standard. So there's a website that someone has created which shows all the old typewriters. You can register your typewriters, but it also has it helps you date your machine based on the serial numbers. So that Corona Standard was manufactured about 1936. I was hooked. So the next machine I bought was the Smith Corona Clipper, and again from somebody I found on Craigslist. So I went to the guy's garage, and I gave the guy $40. Yeah. So after I gave him the money, he told me that he had bought it at a thrift store for $5. I guess that's a pretty good markup. And based on the serial number, that machine was manufactured in 1958. A Smith Corona Clipper. Then I found Andy, and I also found Andy on the Craigslist. And he had a machine listed, and when I sent him a text about the machine, he asked which machine because he had more than one for sale, and he needed to know which one I was interested in. So when I went to go see him, he had several machines, and so I felt like I was now upping my game. Here we are. He'd put the machines in the back of his car. He'd come out from his house and lined them up and opened up the back of his SUV and had them lined up there. It definitely felt a little bit like a drug deal. And I was upping my game, and I spent over $100 on the machine. And it seemed to me like he was a real dealer. You know, I bought the Royal Arrow from Andy, which according to its serial number was manufactured about 1948. So now I'm up to 3 machines, and I'm pretty satisfied. And when I was talking to Andy, he told me about that he had a guy that cleaned and refurbished the machines for about $50. So I asked him if he would share the information who the guy was, and he wouldn't tell me. He told me the guy was kind of kooky, he was kind of evasive, so that's when I knew that Andy was a real dealer, because he had no interest in telling me any of his sources. So I checked around. I was trying to find a place that would do the refurbishing and the cleaning. There was a place down in LA, and I texted back to Andy, and I basically pleaded with him. I even offered him a little bit of a commission because I figured if this guy was local, it's going to be a lot easier for me. And he finally relented, and he didn't ask for any money or anything. He just gave me the guy's name, and the guy's name is Ron Wilson. And Ron used to own a business machine shop in Ventura, and he's probably 80 years old, and now he works out of his little workshop behind his house, and he's great. You know, he's funny, and he helped me clean up the machines, and he also ended up selling me a couple more machines. So the last machine that I got was from our friend Tom, and Tom had brought a machine that he got from a friend because he was telling his friend about what I was doing with these typewriters and collected them, and so it was a gift. Very kind of them. And that was the Remington Portable Number 1, the oldest machine in the collection. And according to its serial number, it was manufactured about 1926. I actually had to show Ron how to use the lever on the right to raise the keys and lower them. So you raise them to use the typewriter, and then you lower them again to put it back in the carrying case. So Ron ended up selling me 2 more typewriters. He sold me an Olympia SM8, sorry, which was made in West Germany in 1965, 4 years after they built the Berlin Wall, and also a Royal Quiet Deluxe from 1951. Okay, so now I'm up to 6 machines, and I'm satisfied. Uh, I'm running out of room, and my wife is running out of patience. So, inspired by the many stories from the Typewriter Revolution book, I asked my wife, Kay, if she would help me plan to do something with the typewriters and kids. And so we came up with the idea of offering the typewriters so the kids can type out short stories. And we're calling it Once Upon a Type. And what really appeals to me about a typewriter is the way you have to slow down with the typewriter. It makes you slow down. It makes you slow down and think. There's no delete key. There's no spell check. Uh, it's very therapeutic. I've been writing letters to friends and family, and I'm using all the different machines. And I remember something Tom Hanks said. He compared it to dating, and he said, you need to try out a few to figure out what you like and what you don't like. So the jury's still out on which is my favorite, but I am enjoying it, collecting them, using them, learning about them, and I'm definitely going to enjoy sharing that with the kids. So keep an eye out for our events. Once Upon a Type, we're going to try to do them in Ventura in the future. Thank you.